Oh my God. Hello again, everyone. I'm Sam. Today we are going to see if it's worth it or not to take your car to a shop. How often do you hear someone say that their car is stuck in the shop or they need to take it to a shop, but they just don't have the money to get that work done just yet? Also, how many times have you heard a weird noise and thought you should really get it to a shop and get it checked out, but you just don't want to take it in? Maybe you don't want to take it in because you're scared of how much it will cost, or maybe you don't want to take it in because you know that they're going to find like 20 other things that are wrong with your car, and then you're going to have to get it figured out. Then, after you hear about those 20 things that are wrong with your car, the anxiety starts stacking because you're sitting in the waiting area with a choice of fixing all those things like it should be done, or not fixing them and just letting that clicking ball joint go YOLO and just keep on keeping on. If you're liking this sort of topic, hit that like or subscribe button. Every time you do that, I'll give my dog Stanley some extra pets. If you like Stanley, you'll like this video. Do it for the dogs. Okay, so let's talk about working on your car yourself a bit. This can seem like a very scary thing if you've never done it before. Cars seem like they're really complicated and super intricate machines that are hard to work on. Not in reality is that actually how it works. Cars all share some common systems and ways to get things done. Your Mustang has some similarities to my 240, believe it or not. Heck, even a front-wheel drive Civic has some things in common with my 240. So if you can work on one, you can kind of figure out how to work on the other. Personally, I had no clue how to work on cars before.
You're supposed to jack up from the oil pan, right?
I didn't even know how to take a wheel off and change it at one point. Everyone starts from somewhere, and that somewhere is not knowing anything. But luckily, there are a ton of resources out there to get you going and get you started wrenching on your own car. I wanted to start modifying cars more and more. Frankly, I just didn't have the money to send it to someone, have them do the work, so I needed to figure out how to do it myself. That's how I found out how helpful YouTube can be, especially if you have a common car. All of you guys out there who uploaded a how-to on something like changing a serpentine belt to even the brakes, you're the real MVPs of YouTube. Those videos are amazing. The amount of good, high-quality how-tos out there are absolutely staggering. All right, so when we get started here, let's talk about time a little bit. First thing we're going to talk about. If you've never changed the brake pads and rotors in your car before, it's going to take a lot longer the first time you do it compared to the third time that you do it. You need to take into account that if you're weighing whether or not to take a car to a shop, it might suck to have your car to shop for a day or two, but it might take you longer than that time to do it yourself because you just frankly never done it before, you don't know what you're getting into.
Not the ideal way to do this. That's not what we want.
Your time is also valuable, so remember that when the time you're working on your car can't be used for other stuff. If you go into a reputable shop and they have access to parts or let you bring your own, they should be able to knock most things out in a reasonable amount of time. Usually faster than you can if you've never done that sort of thing before. Okay, so let's say you have the time to do it and you kind of know how to do it. You're gonna need some tools to get the job done.
I need tools now.
Preferably, you gotta get the right tools.
Heck, am I supposed to get that out? This is dumb.
I'll be honest, I still abuse tools. I'll admit that I've used a flathead screwdriver as a pry bar or chisel within the last week. I did it when I was working on my 240. Don't do that. You shouldn't do that. Be nice to your tools. Tools also are not cheap, so let's make that clear. Even if you go to Harbor Freight and buy the cheapest versions of whatever you need, it still won't be cheap to just do the job you need to do. You gotta remember that. But once you have the tools, you can use them over and over, which helps justify their cost over time. The more you use them, kind of less that cost is. I've been using the same Craftsman socket set since I was 17 that my dad got me. I'm like 100 years old, so it's super reliable. The only exception here is for some of those weird specific tools that you might only use once. An example of that is an exhaust hanger removal tool that I use really occasionally, but it's super helpful when I do use it. All right, so let's say you have the time, you kind of know what you're doing, and you have the tools to get the job done. Now we have to take into account how complex this work is going to be, and if it's going to be possible to negatively affect your car in a really bad way. Basically, we just gotta know if you have the possibility of f***ing your shit up or not. Doing a job like changing your catback exhaust is going to be a lot easier than putting a turbo kit on your naturally aspirated motor. If you screw up the exhaust install, your car will most likely just sound like crap, but if you screw up that turbo kit install, you could blow your whole motor up. It would be amazing, but not for you. It'd be funny for us to watch. If you do the work yourself, then the liability is really just on you. If you have a shop do the work, there's usually an amount of responsibility that the shop has, and they're gonna do it right and probably not blow up your car, or at least try really hard not to. As the complexity of a job goes up, so does the amount of variables that can go wrong or things you'll have to replace / mod to get through the work. Sometimes you'll never anticipate the amount of broken or worn out parts you'll have to replace until you actually tear into something a bit more complex. As you're tearing through stuff, you realize bushings are worn out, you need to replace the bolts, blah, blah, blah. It adds up. Now let's talk about costs. Doing things yourself can save you some money, but can also end up costing you far more than you thought it would. One reason for this would be when you start working on something and you over-torque a bolt, that bolt snaps, and then you need to buy a whole new part. I've been there, it sucks. Like when you're doing stuff for the first time, you screw it up and you have to buy it, you learn from it, but it's an expensive mistake. A shop is going to charge you an hourly rate and also usually a pretty decent markup on the parts sometimes, even a fee if you can supply your own parts. The hours will stack up and it'll get expensive the longer it takes to do something. They're in the business of making money, so you better bet they'll try to make some money. So is it worth it to bring your car to a shop? My answer here is gonna be a little bit wishy-washy. I'm gonna say it can be worth bringing your car to a shop. There's a lot of variables that are at play here that we've kind of gone through, so let me break my answer down a little bit. If you don't have experience doing something to your car and messing it up will have some majorly adverse effects, then I'd recommend taking it to a shop.
Oh yeah, oh.
Also, if you need something really absolutely specifically dialed in and you don't have the means to do that yourself, you should bring it to a shop. An example of this would be an alignment, where you gotta get a certain alignment spec dialed in, and those alignment racks machines are really expensive and most of us don't have access to those. That's something that's great to bring your car to a shop to because they have access to the sort of things that you and I don't. What I do want to leave you guys with though is you should absolutely learn how to work on your car yourself and invest in the tools and time to help you do so. The internet is an amazing resource and you will learn a set of skills that will save you thousands and thousands of dollars over the long run. You'll also meet some people through that journey of learning how to work on your car that can become really good friends, and then you'll have something in common. You can help each other out when you're working on your cars. You'll be amazed at how your set of skills will progress and the different sort of work you'll be comfortable taking on as those skills progress over time. Drop a comment below on what you're working on right now, and I want to hear from you what sort of projects you've got going on. I'm working on drift car stuff all the time, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I look on the internet, and I go on YouTube and try to figure it out, just like you guys are. And trust me, it's frustrating, but it's absolutely worth it to work on your car over the long run. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm Sam. Peace.